This is Listen After Watching,
a podcast where we recap and discuss the most mind-bending, twisty, and thought-provoking TV shows and movies out there. I'm Adrian.
and I'm Alicia. Let's dive in.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Listen After Watching. We're so glad you're here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We're so excited to talk about the penultimate, a word I rarely get to say, episode of Severance Season 2. Age, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing so good. I can't believe we only have one episode left. I feel like there's so much left to reveal.
Yeah, it feels like that we're not going to have enough time to do it all in. I'm fearful of what I will still walk away not knowing.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is there will be another season. Almost positively, right?
Yeah, definitely, probably.
Yes. But how are you personally doing? On a personal level.
On a personal level, if we're getting really real, I'm good. Now we had just like you, friends visiting, staying at our house this weekend, and it was really, really nice. They had just earlier last year adopted a kid, and we hadn't met him yet because we don't live in the same city anymore. And so it was just so nice to meet him. He's such a character. He's so cute. You met him too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just awesome. Like, they're one of our really good friends, and we make an effort to try and see each other. So we like got some good time after he went to bed to just like chat and play games and stuff.
Yeah. It was fun to meet him. Very cool. He's a dancer, so we love that.
He's a dancer. Oh, so cute.
Very sweet. Yeah,
Yep.
we had guests this weekend also. We had some friends who had birthdays. Shout out to Maddie and Megan. Happy birthday this week.
Happy birthday, y'all.
But yeah, we went and played some mini golf last night. It was fun.
Oh, fun. Who won?
I think Mike won. He's pretty good.
Shout out.
And beforehand, I was like, I'm kind of pretty good at this. Because like every time we go, I feel like I win. But I was not on my A game, so I should not have said that.
You just say now you let him win.
Yeah, I did.
'Cause he's
I
a
didn't want
guest
to
in your
embarrass
home.
him, He was a guest, yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, we have a lot to talk about today, so I feel like we should dive right on in. But to get back to a segment that I think everyone knows and loves. Well, first of all, hold on. Skirt. Stop. I have to do the spoiler alert. Everyone, this is your perpetual spoiler alert. If you have not watched Severance Season 2, Episode 9, The After Hours, do not listen to this because you're just going to be angry and confused, honestly. And why did you turn this on? Anyway, let's jump into, like I said, everyone's favorite segment out of all podcasts they listen to. Our word or phrase to describe the episode. I think we've got an obvious one for this. I say this every time.
It's very
We have
obvious.
an obvious one. And I think we should do it on 3 this time for old time's sake. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Devour.
Devour. Yes.
I forgot the way we were supposed to
There's a little
say it.
delay.
Yeah. I wanted it to come out like orange mocha frappuccino, but it
Just imagine we said it like that.
We're not good at editing, so we won't be able to fix that, but just imagine.
Yeah, best 2 words of the episode by far.
So good. Oh man, I can't wait to talk
So
about it. We're
good.
going to talk all about it. But
Let's talk about
we
it.
have the past 2 episodes have been very limited to one story. So we had Gemma's episode, and then we had Cobell's episode, and now we're back sort of jumping between all these storylines, which we love. So we got a lot of things moved forward, and of course, Severance gave us a lot more questions as usual.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Can Can I also just let's get a temp check between the two of us on this episode, on the season so far, because there's a lot of people online. I don't know if you saw, but there are a lot of people who are like losing faith in the season. There are a lot of people who are being like highly critical of the season.
What?
And I think like people are just used to binging things and getting answers immediately and then basing their opinion off of, the whole package that they receive all at once. And so people are like being super nitpicky about every episode. I will say that the pacing of this season has like thrown me for a loop. Like I did not expect the way that it was going to go, and some of the ways that it felt like storylines kind of got halted for a little bit or put on the back burner so we could talk about some other things. But yeah, I think people need to chill out and get over it.
Y'all sound spoiled. Y'all sound like
They are
some
spoiled.
fetid moppets out here.
I almost forgot about that phrase. Love it.
No, I'm still 100% in this. I am still captivated. And I can't wait to see what they do with this final episode, which is 76 minutes long. Thank God.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Well, anyway, I just had to say my piece about that before we...
You just had to call
Get
people
in.
out before we started.
I had to call people out, not to alienate any of our listeners.
I don't think any of our
I hope you're all
listeners
enjoying it.
feel that way. If they're listening to this,
That's true. Yeah, you would stop listening to all podcasts about Severance at that point.
yeah, if you're listening to this, you're a true fan, and we appreciate you and we love you.
We love you with our hearts and minds and bodies. Okay. Well, let's get into the episode. So it is the start of a momentous day, as James says. Helena is doing some laps in her indoor pool, as one rich person does in the morning. And then she goes to have breakfast while her father, James, watches. I did not think we would see their home or anything about them. So this was kind of cool and freaky.
Yeah, this was the first time we see them kind of, in their element. And really one of the only times we see them interact. The other time I think was right after the OTC when we get fetid Moppet.
Right, exactly. Yeah, but she's eating a hard-boiled egg in a very precise manner. And James is a little bit critical. He says, "I wish you'd take them raw." And I think at first when I watched the episode, I was like, I don't know what the hell he's talking about, but it's creepy old man behavior. But then I remembered that, like, oh yeah, the Egans famously, or at least Kier's favorite breakfast is 4 raw eggs or something like that.
Yeah, three raw eggs.
3?
The Kier way. This also just the plate that she's eating off of. It's kind of like an ugly baby being pulled 2 ways, and one person is in red and one person is in blue. Very symbolic. We know blue signifies innies and red signifies outies, usually in the show. So that was interesting. And also the egg is split into 6 ways, which people are speculating about. Obviously, from Gemma's episode, we know that she is going to 6 different rooms and has been split 6 different ways. So it could just be sort of like symbolic of that.
Yeah. Interesting. I didn't notice that about the plate either. That's cool.
I also, James' line, "I wish you'd take them raw," was interesting to me. And I wonder if they're kind of hinting that Helena at some point won't be able to stomach the cruelty of Lumen and of her family. And maybe will, in like kind of getting to know Mark and falling for Mark, will have a change of heart at some point.
Yeah. I think it's definitely meant to at least be a symbol of how she is different from past Egans, for sure. Like she's not doing things the same way. And James kind of Jaime is critical, and I think concerned because of what he already knows that Helly has done.
Yeah.
Another piece of dialogue from this pretty stark encounter is that Helena says, "We're seeing to Mr. Bailiff." And I forgot. I was watching this after having a Bloody Mary for lunch, so I forgot who Mr. Bailiff could be. But she's talking about Irving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at this point, we're like, oh no, Irving's about to be offed. Not good. And then, yeah, because Mr. Drummond, we saw, was going through his stuff in his apartment. We're also very suspicious of Bert at this point after the strangest dinner party ever. Uncomfy. So yeah, bad news for Irv there. We also see, I think you put this note in, but I think you're referring to the wide shot that they pull out on, and it's the giant Lumen water tower.
Yeah, I mean, we have kind of seen, and it's been speculated very heavily online, all of the ways that it seems like Lumen controls water, maybe, or at least all of like the hints to water and like the file names and things. So this was like, it was a very ominous shot, like it's looming over the city and the Egan's house is in the background. And I think it's possible they could be doing something to the water. I don't know, but it's definitely meant to, I guess, evoke a threatening presence.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, and I couldn't initially like put any connections together, but like you said, there's been speculation that Lumen is controlling the water for one reason or another. I did have a thought that maybe they are attempting to somehow introduce Severance through a way that isn't through the brain, maybe like through the water supply or something like that, which would affect all of humanity and wouldn't require everyone to go and get a brain surgery, which doesn't seem really feasible. So, I mean, maybe there is something to that. I don't know.
Maybe, but interesting opening scene.
For sure. So in this episode, we also see that Miss Wong has completed her Wintertide Fellowship early. How convenient. And she's being sent away to Svalbard. She's also required to make a material sacrifice, and Milchick chooses her ring toss game. So she takes the bust of Jaime Egan that she was just gifted and smashes the crap out of it on the table.
Oh man, poor Miss Huang. I don't want her to go.
I know.
I kind of feel bad for her.
I know.
I mean, I do feel bad for her.
Yeah, she seems pretty innocent in this whole thing and just trying to, be a good student and a good fellow.
Yeah. So a couple of things I wanted to note. First of all, Svalbard. The only reason I have heard of Svalbard before is because there's this TikToker. I don't know if you've seen her, but she's like, "Hello, my name's Cecilia. I live on an island named Svalbard," whatever. She does a bunch of she starts them all like that way. Anyway, I've seen a lot of videos of Svalbard. It is just as wintry as what we've seen of Kier, but it is like super isolated. It is the world's northernmost inhabited area. And it's just kind of really like a frozen landscape. And they have like polar bears and shit like that. But it seems like, I don't know if Milchick has any control over this, but it's like, is he purposefully exiling her?
I know. It kind of feels like he's punishing her by saying that she completed her fellowship early.
Yeah.
And then he also says, your bed will be taken from your parents' house and moved there. Which is so like they don't just have a bed in Svalbard.
Efficiency. I know. Maybe they don't. That was really strange.
Which that was kind of the only other time they've mentioned beds in this show is with Rickon preparing for the baby, when he says somehow it's a good idea to have every bed the baby will ever sleep in immediately, like upon birth. So maybe there's some connection there. I don't know though.
Yeah, not sure. But people are also online speculating about like, okay, Miss Huang had to make a material sacrifice. Also don't know if this is like a normal thing for the Wintertide Fellowship, but people are wondering like, what did Harmony have to sacrifice potentially if she was asked to? And maybe it had something to do with her severance, ideas and invention and all of that.
Yeah, or her mom or something.
Or her mom shit.
But yeah, I did notice that bust is the same one that Cobell pulls her notebook out of in the last episode.
Yep. Okay, well, moving on. Let's see what's going on in Gretchen and Dylan's life. So Gretchen confesses to outie Dylan about her romance with his innie. Ooh. In response, Dylan threatens to quit his job, so he does not take it well. She later confides in innie Dylan about their fight, tearfully saying goodbye. And then, heartbroken, Dylan submits a resignation form. Ugh, this was so sad. I almost teared up at the scene when Dylan and Gretchen are saying goodbye to each other.
I know. It was really hard to watch. And then his final screech at the end was so just like out of character for him. Like it just showed how completely heartbroken he was. And just like,
I know.
This was really all he had to live for. Or at least that's how he felt.
Yeah.
But I wonder what it was that made her want to tell, because the last we saw, she lied about seeing him and said that they canceled their visitation suite visitation.
Yeah, I don't really know either. I think she's just, she doesn't strike me as somebody who would want to be deceptive. So I think she was maybe just like trying to be super honest with him.
Yeah. I also wonder if she's trying to get out of him, like find in him what she's seeing in any Dylan, like can she like pull something out of him or make him feel like fight for this a little more.
Yeah, I think so. I'm sure that's part of it. But yeah, people are also saying that Dylan was making like the world's grossest looking smoothie. It had like cucumbers in it, and I don't even know what else was in it.
It was like broccoli.
It was funny because like it was like their chicken scraps, like or kitchen scraps.
Yeah.
Not chicken, sorry, that would be really disgusting.
God.
But people are like, oh, he tossed that smoothie aside because I'm sure he was doing it to like make her happy.
Yeah,
like, he was eating a
somehow.
smoothie because she wanted him to. Or
Yeah,
something.
he's like, you know what? Fuck this gross ass smoothie. You're gonna go cheat on me with me.
I know.
Yeah, I thought that was funny
it's
too.
Like, you should almost be flattered in a way, but I understand it being super weird.
Yeah.
Dylan, I think, proposes with like a ring that he has made from the finger trap.
That's what I thought
one of
it
his finger
was.
traps.
Yeah.
I had to. It was the second time I watched it that I was like, oh, that must be the finger trap, because the first time I was like, I don't know where he got this thing from. But it was heartbreaking. It was so sweet, and he's like, I know I'm just an innie, but I love you all the way. It was so sad.
Yeah.
And he gets so upset about it that he goes to Milchick and fills out the resignation form, and he's really giving Milchick attitude.
He like throws down his badge. Yeah. He's done. He's done. And then it was
totally
really
done.
funny. Helly is like, you should save that and like give it to someone in here. And he's like, all there is O&D and the goat people. Like,
I know.
you're so right, brother.
Yeah. Helly was trying to like give him a pep talk.
Yeah.
Because she's really motivated by Irving leaving that thing for Dylan, the instructions to
Yeah.
the exports
The
hall.
only one who cares about this. I'm like,
Yeah,
you've
right.
had these instructions for like 3 episodes now. Come on.
Oh, we're finally getting somewhere with that, though.
Yeah.
A couple of other things I wanted to mention. So when Dylan is filling out his resignation, Miss Huang, she's so strange to me because she was telling Milchick at one point when they were throwing the funeral or putting together the funeral for Irving that like you shouldn't do this because it makes them feel like people. And then, kind of flips and says to Dylan, "I'm sorry, Dylan, I should have facilitated better," because she can see how hurt he is.
Yeah, I thought about this too. I think she's almost thinking of it as like, I shouldn't. She's thinking of it in like a work capacity, I think, more.
Probably.
Is like, oh, this is like a failure. And this is probably why I'm getting sent to Svalbard.
Possibly. Okay, one last thing, and I'll stop talking about Dylan. I didn't notice this the first time, but when I watched the second time, it was after I had scrolled through Reddit, and people were saying, I think the elevator, when Dylan was leaving work, took him down. You can't really tell from when he gets in the elevator and it dings and the doors close, but the next kind of scene that we see is the exports hall and the elevator dings like it's opening. So I don't know if that's what they're trying to imply, but that would be real messed up. And I feel like at this point, his family would know if he's being sent somewhere. So I don't know if they're like, hey, we're going to see if we can like split his innie into a new innie, a fresh innie that doesn't have all of these memories, like reset him.
Yeah, I saw these comments too, and I didn't think he was going down. I also was like, does that elevator even go down? Like, then why do we need to find the testing floor if the elevator just goes down? But I think if they were to do that, like you said, they wouldn't be just kidnapping him. They would kind of be like wiping him and giving him a clean slate, as if like, oh, he never met his wife and he's just back to like the old Dylan that loved to refine. Because at this point,
I think so too.
All of these people are like potential liabilities and Mark completing this file. And we know that it's really important to Mark to have like his people down there. So I could see them maybe doing that as like, we need just like a safeguard. We can't have all of this shit falling apart right now.
Totally. Yep.
Well, we learned some news about Bert this episode. So he is revealed to have worked as a Lumen operative, what we were kind of speculating, and we learned that he worked transporting persons of interest. So he breaks into Irving's apartment this episode and asks him to come for a drive, very ominously. They eventually reach a train station where Bert buys Irving a ticket and says to never come back. The two share their feelings for each other, and Bert sees Irving off. Oh my gosh. So we had speculated so hard about where this was going and who Bert was and who Irving was, and was he even severed at all? So I don't know if this answered all of our questions, but
yeah,
it did kind of redeem Bert as having a heart, at least.
Ugh, I'm so glad too, because that would have just been too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So when Bert is found in Irving's apartment by him, he's like looking through his case of Lumen dirt that he's collected over years, probably. And he's reading a description about himself. He's like Mr. Goodman. He says, I think Irving writes that he's like a goon for Lumen. And
yeah.
and that there have been disappearances, possibly deaths related to Lumen and Bert. So Irving was on to him majorly, and I think that's probably what Mr. Drummond discovered and why Bert was called in to do what he needed to do.
Yeah, definitely. It's still confusing to me if Bert ever was severed. I don't know.
Yeah.
He talks about being severed, and he talks about, oh, the good part of me fell in love with you. But I'm still not sure if I buy that he was severed.
Me either.
And also at the same time, I still think Irving might be reintegrated.
The way that they were talking, it was like, it seems like y'all remember
It was like
what you had.
It was like it was them again, right? Like it's kind of it was kind of recreating what happened in the plant room. And I think Irving at that time says, "I'm not ready." And then in this scene at the train station, he's like, "I'm ready. I'm ready."
Ugh. It was so sad.
I know, so sad. And he says also, "I've never been loved before, not really," which is so heartbreaking.
Irving, I'm tearing up now.
Oh,
And Irving asks Bert to, like, won't Lumen come after you for, not offing me like you're supposed to, or at least taking me to somewhere where that's going to happen. And I don't think he really answers. He's like, that it kind of seems to say, like, it's the right thing to do. It's worth it. Or at least, like, Irving is special enough to him that he feels like he has to.
yeah. The whole time I was like, go with him. Just you guys could just disappear together. But alas, no. But at least Radar did go with him.
God bless. We love Radar. Probably the last that we'll see of Irving this season.
I think so.
But I did see in an interview that John Turturro seemed to confirm, not in so many words, but between the lines maybe, that this isn't the end of Irving's storyline. So I'm sure that we'll see him in season 3. But yeah, probably the last we're seeing of him, and maybe even Dylan too, honestly. Like, it seems like it's kind of, everyone's kind of being tucked away for now.
Yeah.
And we're focusing in on the main, characters.
That's a good point, because we did just say there's so many storylines to close up. So it does seem like, this episode, they're starting to tie up some of the smaller side storylines. So it could be, bye to Irving, bye to Dylan for now. There's so much to cover with Cobell and Mark and Milchick and Helena and James, dear God. So I think that might be correct. I think we gotta focus on the main folks for this last episode.
Yep. Well, let's talk about the phrase of the week and the scene that came from. So on the day of the Cold Harbor Files' expected completion, Mark does not show up to work. And everyone's freaking out. Everyone's making calls to each other like, why isn't it moving? Mr. Drummond has a meeting with Milchick and says that it's his fault that Mark didn't show up, and forces Milchick to apologize. But this pushes Milchick too far, and he tells Mr. Drummond to devour feculence.
Hell yeah.
And he even dumbs it down for his stupid ass and says, eat shit.
Eat shit, Mr. Drummond.
This was so satisfying.
I know. Oh my God. Yeah, we've been seeing the buildup of Milchick just like putting up with their bullshit and not being treated like a loyal employee that he is. So this was amazing. I was a little worried for him because Mr. Drummond is just ginormous and they're standing by this railing, but
True.
Part of this kind of revealed, I think, like a fallacy in this show, which is why would they not have a handler for Mark on the outside if this is so important that he shows up for work? Like, they control everything. Why isn't Mr. Drummond sitting in his driveway, like, ready to take him to work? Like, that part is a little bit unbelievable to me.
He's too good to go out and monitor Mark, but he broke into Irving's apartment himself. It's just,
and they're trusting Mark who has like done all of this shit already. Like, they know Audi Mark's not trustworthy. They know that Devin is onto them too. Like, why are they just believing that he's going to keep coming to work?
And that's Milchick's point when he talks to him. He's like, what Mark does outside of work is not like my fault, basically.
Yeah.
Like, that's on you.
And I love, he says, let me say it monosyllabically. And then he says this whole long sentence that really it's just one syllable. Every word is one syllable. And I was like, oh shit,
I know.
He's so fucking smart.
He's too smart for them. I really think too, like, I don't believe that it was Miss Huang who had the complaint about too many big words at this point. I think it's Mr. Drummond.
Yeah.
I think because he's like, when he forces him to apologize, it's because he used like unnecessarily complex language when he said something to him. I can't remember what it was, but he's like, apologize. And he's like, he even forces him to dumb it down to, I'm sorry. And I think Mr. Drummond is really exerting his control and racism.
Yeah, I think so too.
Over Milchick.
Yeah, totally. He looks like a racist. The haircut. Yeah, I think he's just on a power trip and just has it out for Milchick. But man, I loved this scene, and I love that Mr. Drummond just like was, I think, in shock probably. But
Totally.
he can't do anything. Like, they need Milchick at this point. Like, they're at the finish line for this this thing they're trying to do. So,
Yep.
well, we will talk a little bit more about Milchick, but let's move on to the main attraction here. Mark, Devin, and Cobell meeting up.
The Three Stooges.
Crazy time. Okay. So Mark and Devin meet with Cobell, who reveals that Gemma will die if Cold Harbor is completed. Mark calls in sick, promising Milchick he will come to work the next day. At night, Cobell and Devin sneak Mark into a severed cabin at the birthing lodge. Mark's innie awakens in the cabin where Cobell is waiting.
What?
This was crazy.
Oh my gosh.
First of
There's
all,
so much to these.
I know.
Yeah.
First of all, the three of them meeting up.
Can't believe it. Yeah, it's like, I mean, Mark was even saying in the car, first of all, Mark looks fucked up. He's like, he's coughing. He can't even hold his head up. He's like leaning it against the window of the car. He is not in good shape. I mean, he really is sick.
Yeah. Well, he did just get his head drilled into. I love all the head hole jokes.
I know.
That was good.
Yeah. The wind whistling over the hole in your head.
Yeah. Well,
Something
another
like
thing Devin says in the car that I was like, oh shit. She's kind of like joking, like, oh, are you here? Are you with it? Do you know what's going on? And she says, am I me or am I a copy machine? And he says, unfortunately, you are you. But I'm like, copy machine? We'll talk about this a little bit more, but I think they might be hinting at something that's happening here.
You think so?
Oh, yes.
Are you getting on the Devin evil bandwagon? Just kidding.
No, I'm not on that bandwagon. I mean, I wouldn't be totally shocked, but I don't think so.
No,
So-
I don't think so either.
Yeah, Cobell shows up in the same truck that she drove away from her aunt's house in. And she's looking as crazy as ever and speaking as haltingly as ever. Mark's giving her sass, and she's like, we're allies now.
Yeah, which, like, I hope that she's being honest in that. Like, I want her to be good because I think she's just been so screwed over by Lumen that she deserves some revenge of her own. But
I know.
yeah, I mean, come on. Like, you haven't proven yourself to be trustworthy to them. So just saying we're allies now, that's not enough, girl.
I know. I know. And even in this episode, like the show didn't give us anything to definitively say that she is an ally. She still is like very creepy, even to like the very last scene.
True.
But yeah, we learned
Yep.
something very big here, which is something we've also been speculating about this whole season, which is Cold Harbor going to result in Gemma's death? And Cobell says yes.
Yeah. I mean, it could be her death or it could be the death of her as he knows her,
Right.
which we can talk about later. But yeah, I think people were hoping that Cobell was going to, I mean, me too. In the scene, I was like, reveal more to him. Like,
I know.
more.
Say more.
She says Cold Harbor and they're like, what? And just nothing.
Yeah, she's speaking
Like, go girl,
so
give us nothing.
slowly. She's giving like a word a minute. They're just like hanging on every word. Another thing I thought was hilarious was they're just like waiting out in the woods until it gets dark. They're just like standing around together. I'm like, what is happening here?
I know. And people are like, didn't Devin just have a baby? Like, what?
Yeah,
Where is her
Ricken's-
baby?
Ricken's on duty right now with the baby, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Well, can we talk about Milchick and Mark's phone call?
Oh my
too?
gosh, yes. This was so good.
It was good.
So this is coming off of Milchick just having that interaction with Mr. Drummond. So he's like on this kick of like, Lumen can suck my bleep. And then Mark
balls.
calls in this like very important person right now. And
Yeah.
initially he's like lying to him and he's like, it's like the nosebleeds. I had to drive out to this place and we're looking at it. And then he's like, you know what? No, I'm not sick. I just need the day. I just needed the day. I'm just like everyone does. Work is work and this is life. And I think like any other day, Milchick would have been like, that's not okay. That's not acceptable. But because he just had this interaction, he's like, wait a second. Yeah. Work is work and there is more to life than this. And he kind of like lets Mark slide and is like, what, are you coming in tomorrow? And Mark says, yeah, I'll be there.
Absolutely. I am so okay. So this is maybe reading too much into it, but maybe not because we're talking about Severance here. But yeah, Milchick is. Mark goes on his like, isn't that what Lumen is all about? Balance, spiel. And then Milchick kind of turns around, sits on his desk, and he looks up at this iceberg print on his wall while he's talking to Mark. And to me, this was like, on the surface, their conversation sounds so normal, between maybe a boss and an employee, albeit kind of weird if your employer's like, let me send a car. What's your exact location? But outside of that, like calling in sick to your boss and your boss saying, well, like, will you be here tomorrow? And on the surface, very much like, okay, whatever. But I think there's so much that like they're not saying that they kind of understand in this conversation. Because they have all of their history. And I think on Milchick's end, he's like, to your point, like, I'm going to let this one slide because I'm pissed off at Lumen. And I know that they need him to come in, but I don't want to give them what they want. And I don't want to be their pawn, in their game that they're playing. So I'm just going to let him do his thing. And maybe it's something kind of against the wishes of Lumen.
Yeah.
And maybe he knows that.
And I also hope that partially he's like, has some empathy for Mark and what he's going through.
Yeah.
But at the
he does.
end of this call in the scene, he hangs up the phone and the look on Milchick's face, it like hangs on it for a little bit. And it seems like this is the moment, this is his turning point where he's about to redeem himself. So
Totally.
I think next episode, Milchick's going to be very pivotal in what happens.
I think so too. Gloves are off. I mean, come on. If his performance review was like, your paper clips are the wrong way, and you say too many big words, like telling your superior to eat shit definitely should be on the next one. So I think his time maybe is limited, but they know that they need him at least until the file's completed. So he's giving himself some time to maybe carry out his own agenda.
Yeah. Ooh, I loved that scene though. That was great.
So good.
Okay, so when night finally falls after they've been standing in the woods all day, Mark is loaded into the back of this truck just like Cobell was, which I thought was hilarious. And they start heading to the birthing retreat.
So they get to the birthing retreat, and there's a security checkpoint, of course. And Cobell has this coded conversation with the guard. But first she tells her that this is one of James' girls. I can't remember what she says.
I think she just says one of James.
This is one of James. Oh, yeah. You're right. So obviously, James, the crypt keeper that he is just out here getting women pregnant.
Somehow putting it in something.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. We don't know exactly what's going on, but just more lore about James is that he is disgusting.
A nasty
and we hate
motherfucker.
it.
Yeah, so Cobell has this very like tense interaction with the guard and like code, and then they finally get let in. And lo and behold, Devon's plan works. Mark walks in and he's any Mark.
Yes. Okay. Also, can we say that the reintegration part of this season, like it felt like, I have to say maybe the reintegration episode was like my favorite episode of the season so far, because it was so satisfying when that happened at the end of the episode. But like since then, we haven't seen much of Mark's progress in that area.
Yeah, it's been a slow payoff, this reintegration.
Yeah. And like even still, they need to bring his innie out to talk with him. So I'm just like,
they even flooded his chip, for God's sake. I mean, come on.
Whatever that does. I know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it is a little weird.
That was...
And we're not getting like the flashbacks anymore. Also, like the reintegration flashes. So it is a little. That's a really good point. It is a little confusing. Like, what do you know at this point, and what don't you know? It does seem like he's in the dark about so much still. Yeah, so he walks into the retreat and is like, whoa, where the hell am I? And Devon's like, don't walk out the door. You'll just come back in. And it's like the same thing when Helly tries to leave the hallway on her first day.
Yeah, it's interesting that, I mean, I know Annie Mark is like freaked out to be there, but like he sees Devon and he still wants to run away. So I think he's just like, and he's not even trusting of Devon quite at this point, you know?
Yeah, it's probably also
I was waiting for Devon to give him more information, like your Audi has reintegrated and like you had this surgery and we need some help from somebody at Lumen. And so let's go talk to Cobell. Like she doesn't give him any context.
I know. She could have been like, remember me? It's your sister. We know, we believe you. Gemma is alive and we're going to try to get her out. We need your help. Like, instead she's
maybe
like, it's okay. Let's go upstairs and see Cobell standing creepy as hell in front of this fireplace. This woman that you're terrified of.
Yeah, someone you don't trust.
What the hell?
I wonder if they're like purposefully, if Cobell and Devon talked and they're like purposefully keeping him in the dark, his innie, so that he can like go in kind of untouched by all of the information that they have while he still can.
Maybe. They definitely still need him to get in as his innie undetected. So maybe that's it. Yeah, I thought this was strange that she's not giving him more information to like calm him down.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, Cobell upstairs, really looking menacing, huh?
She looks so creepy. She looks like a villain standing in front of the fireplace and glowing. And then Devin says, "Do you remember the last thing you said to me?" And then he says, "She's alive." And then it shows Cobell's face and she's like, "Oh shit."
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like this was, I don't know, maybe I'm dumb or something, but I felt like this was meant to be like a really big mic drop moment, the way that they played it. But I was like, why is this
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
big?
Because wouldn't Devin and Mark have like shared all this information already with Cobell? Like that's not
You'd think.
that's not big information to come from the innie because the Audis already know that. And
That's why I think it makes sense that they're trying to keep his innie kind of shielded from some information.
maybe,
I
yeah.
don't know. I guess we'll see.
I don't know. I'm still a little bit suspicious of Cobell that she's so into the science part of it that she wants to see the experiment through. Even if it's like she doesn't care about Lumen, but like the experiment part of it, like she needs to know the answer. So she might be using Mark at this point to get back in and to like figure all this out.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, it would also, like, Ragabi's warning is still echoing in my mind. I think there's probably been a lot of history between the two of them, and she knows Cobell better than the two of, like, Mark and Devin do. So maybe there's some validity to her warning.
Yeah, and I think unlike Milchick, we haven't seen, I mean, we've seen why Cobell would want to turn on Lumen, but we haven't really seen her show any form of empathy towards the severed people, which Milchick has. So it's kind of like, I don't know if she has it in her to be good. I think she still wants to, she's still working towards her own end, you know?
Totally. He's a tool in her revenge,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Ooh, well, I think the last thing we wanted to talk about in this episode is this creepy scene. So Helly, of course, goes and finds Irving's instructions behind the poster in the break room. The only one who is working to figure this out on the severed floor. So she's like staying after hours and trying to memorize the directions on this thing, which are really hard to memorize. If you remember, we talked about it's like left, right, left, 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 right, 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 left, right. And she's like sitting there trying to memorize it. And we see this figure appear behind her. And we're like, oh, who the fuck is this? And it turns out to be Jaime, who we have never seen on the severed floor.
Does Jaime have a medical condition? Because the way that he speaks sounds like he's about to croak at any moment.
He's so
and I think that could be relevant to the story, but
yeah, he might be close to death, but he is so creepy. And I think the only thing he says to her is, "You tricked me, my Helly."
right.
What do you think this is about?
I'm confused. I think so, like, man, I don't know, because I wrote this note like, is he talking about the OTC? But they already talked after the OTC. So I don't know if maybe he's talking about like Helena and Mark having like a romantic thing that he now knows about. Maybe there's something there.
Yeah, we've seen in the past that they're not telling Jaime everything. They're keeping some things from him. So I was like, does he think this is Helena? Why would he be talking to Helly? Like, Helly doesn't know anything. And how could Helly have tricked him? I'm also super
any ideas?
confused about this. I mean, it did seem obviously to be Helly and not Helena at the end, because she's like, what the fuck? Like, who are you?
fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. A lot of people are speculating that it's about the OTC, but that was so long ago, and he already confronted Helena about that immediately after.
I know.
So I think it has to be about, oh, you know what it might be about? What? Her being pregnant.
What? I thought, yeah, it could be that.
I think it might be about her being pregnant, which we haven't talked about in a few episodes, but I still think is the case. I think that's going to be one of the final episode reveals.
Yeah. People were also saying maybe that's why she was eating the eggs hard boiled. Maybe she normally eats them raw, but perhaps she couldn't stomach it if she's pregnant.
Yeah. She also takes the world's tiniest bite, so maybe she's trying to like appease him.
Pick up the whole egg and take a bite. Come on, girl.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also thought it was interesting that James calls her Helly.
Right.
Like that must be his, nickname for Helena.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he must think it's Helena, because why would he be talking to Helly?
I don't know.
Unless there's some weird incest. I don't want to get into that.
Wait a second.
What?
I'm going to propose something crazy.
Do it, Leash.
No, it's probably not true. But, I wonder if Helly was experimentally severed at a really young age.
I've thought about
that
this.
Maybe... Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So, maybe the innie version is, truly the child that she was born as.
Yeah.
And then Helena is this, groomed version that is actually an innie, but lives on the outside world. And because Helly really acts more like a normal, real, full person than Helena does. Helena's really robotic. So I think there's... that, I don't know. That just occurred to me.
I have also thought about this. That, yeah, because they had access to her, and we know the severed chip has been around for a while. Mm-hmm. What if, the Helly we're seeing on the Severance floor is the original consciousness of Helena Egan? That also fits into this whole episode theory that has been going around. Maybe we can just jump into that now, since we're already kind of talking about it.
Yeah.
So
let's do it.
This episode is called The After Hours. There is also an episode of The Twilight Zone called After Hours, which is about a mannequin in a department store that gets the chance to become a human for a month. And she overstays her time being a human and eventually forgets that she was ever a mannequin. And she comes back into the store to go shopping and discovers, to her complete shock, that she was a mannequin, and that's where she really belongs. That's where she came from. So everyone is saying that these two episodes are very closely connected, obviously in the name, but also in the coded language that we heard Cobell use with the security guard at the birthing retreat, which was Miss Marsha White on the 9th floor. And then the security guard says, specialties department. And Cobell says, I'm looking for a gold thimble. And this is a direct quote from that Twilight Zone episode.
Shut up. That's so cool.
Yes. So I think we can't deny that these two things are connected. It's obviously connected.
Whoa.
So with that in mind, everyone is saying that this is probably about Gemma. And what that would imply would be that the Gemma that Mark met was a severed personality, an innie version of the true Gemma, whoever that may be. And so we haven't maybe even met the true Gemma yet. And Mark is searching for this person that isn't even a true conscious
person.
Yeah, not a real person. And there are a few things that people are pointing to kind of say that this might be true. One is, well, first of all, the way that Mark and Gemma meet, if you remember, is at the blood bank, which is revealed to be very obviously a Lumen facilitated event. So their whole meeting could have been set up by Lumen.
Dude, all of the flashbacks in that episode too, it's like, I mean, okay, they did have like the really traumatic miscarriage episode or moment. God, I can't speak. But, you know, like it's all very like picturesque, like rose colored, like very beautiful, perfect, meet cute situation. And it kind of feels like fairy tale-ish the way that they met and like instantly clicked. That, you know, it kind of feels like, is this real life?
And another thing, when they first meet at the blood bank, one of the very first things Mark says to Gemma is, in a cute, flirty type of way, he says, "Who are you?" Which is kind of like, yeah, who are you, actually? You know?
Right.
Another thing that I think is a huge clue is if you remember when Helena creepily goes and meets Mark at the Chinese restaurant, Audi Mark, and we were like, what are you doing here? And they have that strange interaction. And then she goes and says, oh, what was your wife's name again? Hannah? And he's like, no, it was Gemma. And we were like, where did the name Hannah come from? Like, where'd she get that? But now, what if that was her real name? Like, what if that's the real person?
Right.
And there's just other things like Gemma's family is never in the show. No people related to Gemma. It's all just Mark's side.
Yeah.
So
right.
There's one other thing. Okay. So the Twilight Zone episode after Hours is called The Mighty Casey, a.k.a. Miss Casey. And that episode is about a robot baseball player who gets an artificial heart and then starts having human feelings and emotions.
Whoa.
I just think this is too closely like paralleled here.
Totally. Wow, that's so crazy. People were saying online, like when before this episode came out, they noticed the title of the episode and they were like, oh, there's a Twilight Zone episode called After Hours. But I did not expect it to like have direct quotes.
I know.
But it did spawn like these theories related to the content of that episode.
Yes.
But I think there's like, I could see this totally being true. And I think there's no possibility that there is a simple kind of rescuing of Gemma. Like that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
We're not going to see this like beautiful reunion the way that Mark wants it to be. So
I fear not.
I could see this totally being true.
But I will say, bringing this back to what we were talking about with Helly and Helena and potentially Helly being the original version of Helena, this all could be about her. It could not be about Gemma at all. It could be about Helena being out in the real world so long that she believes she's the original, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So, and
that's true.
And that's been speculated also. So I don't think it's necessarily 100% has to be Gemma that they're talking about in this connection to this to the Twilight Zone episode. But
yeah,
I don't know. It could be either of them.
Right.
It's
it could be both.
It could be both. Come on, it can't be both.
Could be both.
I am just like, I've been sitting on this like for this whole week, and I told you about it last week, and I was like, we need to do an emergency episode. I want to talk about this. But I've been like freaking out about it because it's just like, how did we not see that Mark could have been falling in love with not a real person?
Yeah, I think we just didn't consider that Lumen was working that way. But now, after having seen Gemma split into these multiple any versions in the rooms that she's going into, I think it it opened a lot of people's eyes to what could be possible outside of Lumen.
Yeah, you're right. That revealed a lot in what they're capable of. Well, you also have a theory you wanted to talk about related to Helly.
Oh, yeah. This is just a quick little fun one. People think that Helly R might kill Jaime, which, in light of what we just talked about, Helly possibly being like the true version of Helena, that would be incredibly tragically poetic. Like, wouldn't it? I mean,
Yes.
I like this theory even more with that in mind.
Me too.
But people are saying this because Helly has been so different from the rest of, and Helena, I guess, to a certain extent, have been like different from the rest of the Egans. Like, it doesn't seem like the other Egans have been severed before. I mean, obviously they wouldn't have had a chance, but we don't know if Jaime is. And Helly's character herself, like, we don't see a lot of violence in this show. It's all very like psychological warfare between each other. But Helly is just straight up like violence is like route one, like plan A. You know, she threw a speaker at Mark's head in the very first episode when she wakes up on the table.
Yeah.
She, you know, threatens to cut her fingers off with the paper cutter. She hangs herself. She's resorting to violence for a lot of like solutions. So I think it makes sense that she could resort to violence in some other way, maybe against Jaime. This person, this was Sweet Neo 85 on Reddit who posted this, but they said that the finale episode, is rated MA 15 plus for violence. So they're kind of keying in on that, and they think that possibly she could use Mark's Allentown glass head cube thing to kill him.
Helly with the head cube in the office.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I would love this.
Right?
Honestly, it does make sense with the theory we were just talking about. Like, she was this rebellious kid, and they were like, we can't deal with this. Like, we're severing her.
Yeah.
And now she's getting her final revenge on him. Oh,
Right.
this would be so good.
That would be so good. So, like, I'm going to run with that theory as far as, like, what I think could happen in the finale. I'm going to take that and hold on to it. But do you have any ideas of what else might happen in the last episode of the season?
I think there's going to be a big reveal. I think there's going to be so many big reveals. I think it's going to be Gemma. Oh man, I don't know if it's Gemma or if it's Helena that they're going to reveal isn't the real one, but I think it's definitely going to be one of them that their consciousnesses aren't what we think. I think Helena is pregnant.
Oh,
And this might be what Jaime is like confronting Helly about. I don't know. And I think, I mean, they've got to have something to bring us into season 3, right? They can't wrap up everything.
yeah.
So I think it would be a really great ending to the season for them to somehow finally break Gemma out. And when they finally brought her out and like everyone takes a breath, she's like, wait, who are you?
Who are you? Yeah. I think that would be a great way to end it. I also think that it would be a great way to end it if it ends on like Helena's pregnant, you know? Because like I think I remember hearing in an interview or something that the finale this season is not like a major cliffhanger like the last season. So I think we'll get answers, but there will certainly be more threads to go down for season 3.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking that might be a good ending is Mark finding out Helena's pregnant and kind of being torn between these two relationships he has, and like the powers that be, like with his child, and then like his wife being locked away. Yeah, I don't know. I cannot wait. I can't wait.
It's gonna be so good.
We're
gonna watch it together.
Yeah, I think we're gonna do a little watch party together and be just freak our freaks together.
Our freaks. I'm excited. 76 minutes
God,
of TV.
You gotta get it all in, baby. I do think, like we said, Milchick's going to help. I think he's going to have a pivotal moment. I think it's going to be something really small. Like, he's going to have to make a split-second decision. Yeah. Does he press this button? Does he let this person through? But that's going to be his final fuck you to them.
Yeah, for sure. I think it could very well be. I know I said this about maybe Irving or Dylan. I can't remember. In a past episode, but I think it could be that he catches Helly going to the exports hall and doesn't stop her.
Yeah.
Like, it could be something small like that. But I think she's got to make her way there. You know, she's been talking about it for episodes. I mean, come on, girl. Like, I think she's going to find her way there.
I know. We've got to see this damn exports hall. Someone's got to find it.
I know. But, oh, my God.
What?
Okay. It would make sense if she killed Jaime and like he had a key card and she took it to the exports hall.
Yeah.
Because I've been wondering like how is someone going to get in? But it could also be that Milchick gives his badge or like opens the elevator for them.
Also, we know that they do a blood draw to let you into the rooms, and she's an Egan.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
She can get in.
Oh my God, that's right. Whoa. Y'all. We're cracking this case wide open.
This is going to be crazy. It's still a mystery what Cold Harbor is going to be and what it's going to mean. We know that it's going to be the end of Gemma. We don't know if that means her body will completely die or if Gemma, the consciousness that is Gemma, will be erased and will switch to Miss Casey or another consciousness.
Right.
I can't say at this point. I can't say.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Me either.
Oh man, this is historical. I feel like this show is historical. It's so freaking good. I say this every time, but I love this show, and I won't stop.
I love it too.
I won't stop loving it.
It's historical, and I'm hysterical.
I honestly today I was thinking about, I can't wait to go back and watch season 1 after this is over.
I think that it would be like if there's the Gemma reveal or Helena reveal, I think it would be really interesting to go back and watch.
You know, there's going to be so many details that come out after the season ends that we're like, oh my God, they were showing us the whole time. Oh, I live for that shit.
Me too.
Oh man.
Ugh.
Well,
I will quickly say I don't have anything on bingo, so we can.
I also don't. This season's gone off the rails, and I'm hoping that this last episode brings me there.
Yeah,
Mark,
I hope so too.
Mark finding Miss
not,
Casey.
Right? Yeah.
I really need that.
Mark Gemma kiss.
Innie's dancing. I don't think they're going to be dancing, but that would give me bingo. Jeez.
Damn.
Wow. Thank y'all for coming on this wild ride with us. We've had so much fun talking about this season, and we are absolutely psyched for this last episode, which we will put our hearts and souls in for y'all, and we'll cry with you when the season's over.
Oh, I'm sad. Well, something to be joyful about. I saw that there's a release date for the next season of Black Mirror. It comes out in April.
Yeah, very soon.
So that could be something. I know. That could be something that we get into. We could do maybe a couple episodes per pod or something like that.
That'd be fun.
But yeah, we're still thinking about it. Let us know if that's something you would like to see. And while you're freaking at it, rate this podcast 5 stars. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on TikTok. comment, engage, like, share,
And
all of it.
praise Kier.
Praise Kier. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, y'all.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.